Hey, it's week 6 in our series of Acts. We're getting closer to Easter, and so what that means is we are starting to get to that Sunday that we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, right? It's this very focused event where we remind ourselves of who Jesus is and why we worship him in the first place, of how we can be saved. And as we approach that time, I just want us to focus our hearts on the spread of the gospel, because listen, here's what we see. And I don't know if you guys have done it or not, but like if you have your iPad, I want to remind you guys that we have a reading plan on here. And so all you do is you get on here, you hit the MCC app, you're going to go to the Plus1 section, and you're just going to crack that bad boy open. You can read through the book of Acts. I'm doing it right now. So listen, in week 6, we are talking about who is the gospel for. And so this was actually a pretty heated debate in the early church. And so as you're reading along with us, what you see is this sort of this conflict or this theological argument that's emerging. You have this half of Christians saying you have to be Jewish for you to become a Christian. And so if you're not Jewish yet, you have to become Jewish, then you can become a Christian. But first you have to become Jewish. And so the gospel is for the Jews. If you were a Gentile, if you were a non-Jew, then you had to become Jewish. But then here is this faction over here, and what they would say is that anybody can become a Christian. You don't have to become Jewish first. The gospel is for everybody. And so we see this play out in a pretty heated, tense, conflicting sense as we walk through the book of Acts, right? So here's ultimately what we see happen. God, in a very powerful way, reminds everyone in the New Testament church that the gospel is for everyone. You don't have to become Jewish first. Right? Now, the Old Testament and Jews and all of that history doesn't get erased by Jesus, it gets fulfilled by Jesus. But the gospel is open to everyone. You come to the gospel by believing in Jesus Christ. And so my question for you is, who have you closed the gospel off to? Right? It's not necessarily a Jew versus Gentile debate that we have right now in the American church. But listen, if you examine your heart, there's people that you probably have unconsciously decided the gospel's not for. They can't be saved. You know, they don't vote the way I do, so they can't be saved. They're out. Man, they've got to clean up their act before they can come to Jesus. They've got to stop sinning, which makes no sense theologically. That while they're dead to sin, they're supposed to somehow become alive to Christ. It doesn't make sense, right? But that's what we do. Oh man, they can't come to Jesus. They're sexually immoral. They can't come to Jesus. They drink. They can't come to Jesus. They gamble. They can't come to Jesus. I don't know, like I said, fill in the blank. I don't know what that blank is for you, but we have to go back to Scripture and remind ourselves that the gospel is not for the wealthy, conservative people that look like us, talk like us, and think like us. The gospel is for everyone. And when we start to exclude people for the gospel, or when we start to demand that people change before they come to Christ, we're running counter to what Scripture teaches, right? Jesus meets people where they are and saves them. And then Jesus wants them to look more like himself, not our version of cultural Christianity. Where the church has always gotten in trouble is when they've wanted people to look like, think like, act like something other than the image of Jesus Christ. And so what we have to be cautious of, what we have to search our hearts for is where are there requirements that we are putting on people that are separating them from the gospel of Jesus Christ? Where are we saying you have to get clean first? You have to stop talking like that. You have to stop behaving like that. Then you can become a Christian. Where is that happening in us, and what does it look like to deconstruct that?